Sports Scene on Facebook, YouTube, and over 30 audio platforms, including Apple and Spotify.
I've been listening to you basically since I was a little kid.
When you live in the community, be part of the community. Sports Scene with Steve Russell is something that is so iconic.
And here's your host, Steve Russell.
Hello, welcome once again to another edition of Sports Scene podcast. It begins, it's actually the second one in the month of June. Zach Rothrock is our producer today, and we welcome you as we come to you from the Body Armor podcast studio here in Gainesville. Body Armor leading the world in active hydration with game-changing innovation. Body Armor, make sure to upgrade your sports drink. And I'm telling you, it's good. I was in the yard working and sweating, and I got my Body Armor out, and
recording
it was
in progress.
really good. If all goes well today, I'm going to get Jonathan Mayo here from MLB Network to talk a little baseball with you. And then Johnny Wiggs will join us later, the head baseball coach at Santa Fe Community College, who got a very nice honor. He'll discuss with you. And then we hope to have Brian Mahoney from the Associated Press, who covers the NBA, covers the Knicks particularly, but we'll talk about the finals and what the Knicks are going to do, my Knicks are going to do when it comes to their coaching vacancy, because when Thibodeau was fired, you know, it's funny. I'm not sure now in retrospect. I was shocked at first. Not so much now. I kind of understand a little bit about, why that took place. Since we talked last, the House settlement was approved. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. If you have a Facebook or YouTube comment, you can get them to us here. Our Facebook comments brought to you by Titan MRI and Imaging, now with 2 locations in Gainesville, 1 in Lake City. Start feeling better today. It is your choice. And our YouTube sponsor, QC Kinetics. If you have joint or muscle pain, you don't need surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics. And all of our guests brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Speaking of my first guest, he is here, Jonathan Mayo from the MLB Network. Going to talk a little Major League Baseball, a little college baseball too. Jonathan, always a pleasure, and thanks for being here. Let's start with the college aspect of it. I was a little bit surprised by some of the teams that have advanced. You know, the big bad SEC didn't, get as many teams maybe as some thought. Your thoughts on the Supers and what happened there? Yeah. And I think that's good sometimes. I understand if you're a casual college baseball fan, you turn the World Series on, you see LSU, you see Arkansas, teams that have been there, but then to see Coastal, get in there, and some of the schools that were there for a long time but now are back, I think that's good for college baseball in the World Series. Do you? If you could, I'm going to ask this question for baseball fans who watch the draft but are not like you really into it, because some teams, as organizations, as you know, will draft college. Some organizations look to high school. Has that changed over the years, Jonathan, or is that still something where, each depending on the draft, leans a certain way? Do we still see that?
I'm just kidding. I think that, listen, if people are as into the draft as I am, they need some hobbies, I think. But, I think that pendulum does shift a little bit. And it can be sort of a little bit of an oversimplification if this team takes college and this team takes high school, because you'll see a team like the A's, suddenly for a couple of years decide to take a high school guy. So sometimes it's what the draft presents to teams and taking advantage of market inefficiencies, which is really what Moneyball is all about. It's not just college versus high school. But I think, the sort of proliferation of data and analytics has made a lot of teams sort of tilt a little bit more towards college. But even more so than that, there are just certain things. Every team's got a model that they'll put all players through. So whether it's only college guys or if they have a good amount of data on a high school guy and he's younger, right? A 19-year-old high school guy, there are teams that just won't take a 19-year-old high school player in the first round. Later rounds might be a little bit different, but they won't take them early. And so I think you're seeing a lot of that. Not every team, but a lot of that. And I think it's going to be interesting this year because the strength of this draft class, which overall it's not a great draft, but the strength of this draft class is high school infielders. It's not that there aren't other talented players at different points in the draft, but that's the largest pool, especially in the first, sandwich second round to choose from. So I think there are going to be some teams that are going to have to make decisions where it might be pretty clear that the best player available is not a college guy, even if that's the way they usually go.
Jonathan Mayo, our guest here, MLB Network, as we talk college. We'll do a little pro here in a minute. This could change, between now and July, Jonathan. But in your mock, is there a defined top 3 or top 5, or has that changed over time a little bit?
I think it's largely been the same group of maybe even 7 or 8 names, but you might be able to sort of shuffle the deck and move them around. I mean, even in the top spot, my last mock, I put Kate Anderson from LSU at number 1 without any real certainty. I still think if I were doing my final mock right now, and this is without, I have no inside information from the Nationals, I probably would kind of go with chalk and put Ethan Holiday back in there, but it's far from a certainty. And I wanted to play with, well, this is what it could look like if Ethan Holiday doesn't go 1-1, because it's not a slam dunk that he will. So there's that group of players, with Ethan Holiday, Eli Willits, Billy Carlson. Those are the 2 high school shortstops. You've got Jamie Arnold and Kate Anderson. You've got Kyson Witherspoon. You've got Liam Doyle. Those are probably the names that all belong in those top 7 spots. I don't have any notes in front of me, so it's possible I forgot a name in there. But those are largely the group, and not all of those are in play at number 1, but a good 5 or 6 of them might be.
Last couple of things. Let's go to some major league teams. Growing up, I was just a young kid. As an expansion team, you could understand the Mets, losing 120 games. But to see the White Sox and then the Rockies do it in such a short period of time, Jonathan, where they just weren't very good, is this draft issues? Is this missing on talent? What kind of led to those franchises sort of being where they are?
I think that's a good question. The White Sox has been a little more cyclical. and they just hit rock bottom. And listen, if you have a bad draft or two, or you make a poor trade or two, then it can, the wheels can come off in a hurry. And yet they haven't been that far removed. The Rockies, might be a little more systemic. It's been a while for them, and I'm not sure what direction they're headed in. So I think, when you have a team that's been struggling, like, you have to make sure you nail your early picks. You need to get those sort of elite level, turn an organization around kind of players. The Rockies haven't done that. I think the White Sox, we're going to have to wait and see. Like, did the trade with the Red Sox, how will that work out? Kyle Teal just got to the big leagues. Their last year's draft pick, Braden Montgomery, looks like he's going to be pretty good, even though that, they picked 11. It didn't help that, that during the stretch of them struggling, then they had back-to-back lottery picks, so they couldn't get a lottery pick this last year when they needed it the most. So it's, but they got a really good player. So you have to make the most of what you're given, and it's just going to take some time for them to dig out. And I think in both cases we'll just have, because it's a combination of drafting, but also developing players and bringing the players that your scouting departments, both domestically and internationally, bring into your system and turning them into major leaguers.
Last question for you. We're starting to see some guys now get call-ups, as we always do. And Spencer Torkelson comes to mind. So, high draft, but sometimes it takes these players who are projected to be really good players a little bit of time. So who are some guys that are coming up now that you like and you think are going to really help their teams?
Yeah, it's always interesting, because I think there's this expectation when, especially with a college hitter, those are supposed to be the most advanced, and they get to the big leagues in a hurry. Yeah. And then some of them ruin it for everyone else by having success right away, right? So it's it can be challenging. But I always use the example. When Mike Trout got to the big leagues for the first time, he was terrible. I mean, it was late in the year and with a month worth of at bats, and he was awful. And then he started the next year back in the minors, and then when he came back, he was Mike Trout. So baseball's hard, and so even if you come from an SEC school, an advanced program, and you're billed as an advanced hitter who's going to move quickly, it's not a guarantee. So I think that it's been fun to see the Nick Kerr, and I think there needs to be some grace and productive at times. Cags just had a 4-hit game. The thing that's been amazing is you look at the surface stats, you're like, okay, really small sample size. He hits everything hard all the time. He does. So even his outs were hard when he first got up. So I would be very surprised at the end of the year, both of those guys, and don't end up with decent, even counting numbers, but the underlying be very, very good. I want to see Chase Burns in the big league. He just got promoted to AAA by the Reds. He's been even better than I think a lot of people anticipated in terms of the polish. So I have a feeling he's going to be in Cincinnati, maybe in the second half some year. So I want to see. Those are last year's draft. Pittsburgh. So I've been itching to see Bubba Chandler in the big leagues behind Paul Skeens. It doesn't help the Pirates score runs, but and the Pirates rotation has been quite good of late. One of the big reasons why Bubba hasn't been called up. But I think when you have like Burns are probably the two best right-handed pitching prospects in baseball, are among the two, along with Andrew Painter, another guy who's getting close to coming back from injury. You want to see how they do. Right, the time they're going to check off all the boxes that are needed. Then you get to see how they fare against big leaguers, because the stuff looks like it'll play against big leaguers. And let's see how it goes and how it rolls. The Phillies are always competing. The Reds are hoping to compete. The Pirates are still sort of rebuilding. They're in different stages, so there are different reasons, pro and con, to call these guys up. But hopefully, with those arms, it'll be sooner rather than later. I'm trying to think of it. Well, Roman Anthony, I think, is the one hitter with the Red Sox that like everyone wants to see, but there's no real room for him. You're not going to call him up and not have him play every day.
That's right.
So I think the question is, what do they do? How do they make that work? And I think within the next month or by the trade deadline, at the least, they're going to figure it out, because it's clear that he needs a challenge beyond AAA at this point.
I always appreciate you. Give yourself a plug. Where can people see your work, and what do you got that people are going to want to see?
It's always MLB.com/pipeline. And then I'm just at Jonathan Mayo on X. He's there. It's a lot of draft stuff these days. I did a mock draft last week. So Jim Callis has one coming up this week, so people should check that out. We'll be doing one every week between now and the draft, and then close to the end of this month, we'll have our draft list will expand from 200 to 250 and shuffle the order a little bit.
All right. Appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks very much.
You got it. Jonathan Mayo, MLB Network, joining us here, talking about the upcoming draft. And what he said about Cags is spot on. You don't call a prospect up to have him sit. They got to play. I mean, if you're going to do that, keep them in AAA, because they're playing every day. So when those guys get called up, 9 times out of 10, they are in the lineup. Coming up, we're talking about a possible, there is a playoff and expanding the playoff in college football. I'm going to go back and tell you about somebody who in the 1970s was talking about a playoff. Yeah, that's next as we continue with our Sports Scene podcast.
After you work out, you can feel worn out. Reach for Core Power and rise to a whole new level of recovery. Protein to build muscle. Electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to power on. Champion your recovery with Core Power.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Is your bank dropping the ball, not playing with heart or skill? Then you need to check out the scouting report on Campus USA Credit Union. That's a 5-star recruit if I've ever seen one. Campus has it all, like great rates and products, friendly service, and smart game plans for you and your money. So why not put some star power in your financial life? Visit campuscu.com or any campus service center today.
Honey, can I recruit you to take the garbage out?
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Roos Ogra for your personal price plan today.
Welcome back to our Sports Scene podcast, coming to you from Coach's podcast room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill here in Celebration Point. You can watch us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen later on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Podcast, any of the almost 40 platforms where you find your favorite podcast. Like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And again, if you have a Facebook comment you want to make, YouTube comment, we would love to hear from you. And for the rest of the month, we're only doing our Sports Scene podcast on Mondays. We are taking the month of July off, and then we may have some announcements for you come August. And remember, our gold sponsor, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union, putting star power to work in your financial life for over 90 years, Campus USA Credit Union. Our clips of the day brought to you by Roos Ogra State Farm. State Farm agent Roos Ogra is your go-to agent in Gainesville and North Central Florida for the service you deserve at the price you want. Okay. Yet to come in the show, we're going to talk a little NBA, and we're going to talk to Santa Fe baseball coach Johnny Wiggs about his Hall of Fame induction. All right. A buddy of mine not too long ago came over and he said, I have all these, I'm a voracious reader, and I love history. and I love sports. And he had all these magazines. And this is what he gave me, one of them, right? Friends, that is from 1979. 1979. Tom Landry is on the cover, okay? And one of the columns in here by Todd Evans says, time for a tournament. 1979, he is advocating for a playoff. That's how long this has been talked about. 1979. And here he says, now understand, conferences are different, but this is what he said. 16 teams in the tournament. He predicted 16 teams in the tournament. The teams will consist of the Pac-10 winner and the runner-up, the Southwest Conference champion, again, 1979, and the runner-up, the Big 8 winner and the runner-up, the ACC title holder and the second-place finisher, the Big 10 champ, the runner-up, the WAC champ, and the 3 top-rated independents. So, again, you got the SEC in here too with that. And then he talks about the teams that would have qualified. Then he says a reseeding would take place after that. Because he said commitments could be kept. The Big 8 winner goes to the Orange Bowl, the Southwest champ to the Cotton, the SEC to the Sugar, and so on. So once again, we're talking, the point I'm trying to make here is that way back in 1979, this dude is talking about a college football playoff. And here is the reason why. Because in 1978, the Associated Press had Alabama, which finished 11-1, atop its poll. Remember United Press International, friends? Yeah. They joined College and Pro Football Weekly, naming USC 11-1 as the top-ranked unit. USC had beaten Alabama earlier in the season, but was upset by Arizona State. And Oklahoma lost once to Nebraska by 3 points. Otherwise impressive. And Penn State lost to Bama, but they only had one loss. So I'm just trying to tell you, this whole conversation now about bowls and all of that and, what to do with this thing, way back in 1979, Todd Evans, time for a tournament. So very interesting on how he was asking about this. And he also said 16 teams, which is now just being debated. Crazy. We're going to turn our attention to the NBA playoffs. What will the Knicks do for their head coach? We'll find out from our next guest as we continue with our Sports Scene podcast. Stay with us.
After you work out, you can feel worn out. Reach for Core Power and rise to a whole new level of recovery. Protein to build muscle. Electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to power on. Champion your recovery with Core Power.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. Look what you have done to my truck.
Excuse me, it's your fault, it's not my fault.
Yes, it is your fault. I am calling Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law.
So I'm gonna call Jeffrey, my husband.
Meldon Law, this is Jeffrey speaking.
Jeffrey! This crazy lady here might...
New client? Yes, but this one might be a little tricky.
Coach, you know what always impressed me? How you beat Florida State to win the 1996 national championship.
And I was really impressed with your 06, 08, and 09 Gator teams.
And the way you coached Danny to the Heisman Trophy.
A lot like what you did with Tim Tebow.
You know, you won more SEC championships than you lost home games at the Swamp.
And you had plenty of super games in front of our Gator Nation.
Yeah, there really is something special about the Swamp.
I guess that's why we say about the Swamp, only the Gators get out alive.
To the Swamp and the Gators, with the best beverage served at Spur's Gridiron Grill, 100% agave, Los Landeros tequila, aged in bourbon barrels for a smoother taste.
I think you mean head beer coach, 1966 lager, a crisp, light, bodied lager for easy drinking.
Nope. Los Landeros tequila, smooth enough to drink neat, bold enough to elevate a cocktail.
1966 lager, enjoyed on game days in the fall or whenever you need a winning cold brew.
Los Landeros tequila.
1966 lager.
Los Landeros.
1966 lager.
Y'all stop bickering.
Okay, you're both wrong anyway. The best thing Spurrier's Gridiron Grill offers are Jerry's famous chocolate chip cookies.
Welcome back to our Sports Scene podcast for this Monday. Appreciate Jonathan Mayo from the MLB Network talking baseball. Now, going to talk a little NBA. We'll talk about the finals, but Brian, I got to talk about my Knicks. After all that's happened, of course, Brian Mahoney's our guest here, covers the Knicks for the Associated Press. I was so stunned, Brian, when I saw that. But I guess if you look back and you start really digging into it, I guess everybody has a wart. I mean, even a Hall of Fame coach has a wart. But when you heard the news, how shocked were you? Were you surprised at all?
Yeah, I can't lie to you, Steve. I was surprised. Going into the playoffs, we'd heard some maybe if they lose in the first round, they're going to make a change. Maybe if they get blown out by Boston in round 2, they'll make a change. But whatever level of frustration they may have had with him, whatever level of concern, once they got to the conference final, further than they've gotten in 25 years, the thought was, okay, they're going to stick with him now. They're progressing to a level where you keep the coach no matter what problems you have with him. But obviously that was not the case. So, yeah, I was surprised.
All these names have been bandied about, and, Kidd or Jay Wright or Rick Pitino, whoever there is, and a lot of those guys are saying, no, thank you. But from the outside looking in, you cover the team. It just seems to me that the ownership has set the bar by, okay, we got these guys. It's win the championship or bust for whoever the new coach is. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, obviously, they're looking for, when you make a change like that and you say our only goal is winning a championship, They're basically saying this coach is not the guy we think. The next coach has to be the guy who's going to win the championship here. And I think a lot of coaches, look, the Knicks are going to throw a lot of money at someone. They're going to get a good candidate. But I think a lot of coaches, rightfully so, whose names you're hearing are saying, wait a minute, this guy did a great job there and they fired him. Are we sure we want that job?
Yeah. And despite the heavy use of the starters and all of that, where are the Knicks in terms of maybe getting help? They don't have a lot of money to spend, do they?
Well, they do have some financial difficulty for sure. The 2 or 3 biggest contracts they have are huge. Luckily, they could be a little bit bigger. But Jalen Brunson took a $113 million decrease last year. So there's money to spend, but not a lot of it. And they still have to decide if they want to extend. Mikal Bridges is due up next. So the good news is, though, most of the starting lineup is pretty set. It's a good starting lineup. They just have to fill around the back. They have to get a better bench. And those guys are not very expensive. So the moves they need to make are not the ones that are really going to hamstring them financially.
Your thoughts on the finals thus far?
Well, I think Oklahoma City is the best team. I've said that since I saw them the first time live this year. I do expect them to win the series. They should be up 2-0. But, look, the fact that they kind of choked away game 1 a little bit, now we have a series. But I don't think that changes anything. I still think when they play their best, they have more answers. I like Indiana's team. Don't get me wrong. I love the style they play, but I just think Oklahoma City has an answer for everything they do ultimately and wins the series in whatever, 5, 6, 7 games.
I have a lot of respect for people like you who cover the NBA because as a novice fan, I read all these things that teams have to do, mid-level exception, 20 unprotected, protect. That just, my mind just goes nuts when I see all that because it's kind of complicated to the average fan. If I said to you, from a league standpoint, Brian, I agree with you. I think OKC is the best team right now. Who are some up-and-comers that if they get, some things right, we may start to watch out for?
Well, that's a good point you make, Steve. Good question, too, because listen, I'm maybe not a novice, if you want to call yourself that, but I still don't get some of these rules now. They changed so many of them a couple of years ago that they're still. I'm amazed somehow some of the fans are so knowledgeable about it. They really have, dove into this, and I'm like, gosh, I have no idea. But, look, there are teams who, we thought were on the way up a couple of years ago. Sacramento started to make a nice little move. Now you look at maybe San Antonio is going to have, they got Wembanyama in there. Now they have the number 2 pick this year. It seems like it's going to be that kind of thing. Get a couple of young draft picks and then hit on 1 or 2 trades. The Spurs got the De'Aaron Fox trade from Sacramento last year. So maybe that's your next team coming back after Oklahoma City. But the process of doing it now is much harder than it was when you talk about these second aprons and all these other rule changes they made to try and cap spending.
Obviously, if you coach in New York or LA or, in a big market or with a team that has pedigree in the NBA, the expectation to win is certainly there. Boston, I think if Tatum didn't play at all, would be a playoff team. But what does Boston do now without him? Are they still as formidable? And when is the expected time return for him? That's going to be tough on the Celtics.
It is. And I think a lot of it maybe depends on how they're doing with Adam over the course of the year. If maybe they think they have a shot and he can come back in March, let's say, maybe they do it. If not, maybe they just sit him out the whole year, which I think is probably maybe the best bet coming off an injury like that. But yes, you're right. They still have a lot of talent there. They still have moves they can make. They have tradable pieces. People talk about them. Could they, if Giannis does get traded from Milwaukee, could Boston get involved? So look, without Jason Tatum, yeah, they're not a top 2 to 4 team in the NBA anymore right now, but they're probably still a top 8 team. And then you can tinker with that and still have a chance.
You just brought up my last question because you mentioned Giannis, okay? And to a certain extent, Kevin Durant, okay? Those are guys that either want to move or the team would move them. Do you get the sense one or both could move?
I think Durant, I would say for sure, because it's not really a good situation for either of them there. They're not going to win. They're not ready to win in Phoenix, and he's got only a couple of years left in his career. So I think they're both motivated to do something. Giannis, Milwaukee does not want to trade him. He's still early in his prime as a top 3 player in the NBA. The only way that happens is if Giannis says, I definitely am going to leave you at some point, so you better trade me now. And I'm not sure he's at that point. I'm not sure he'll ever get to that point. So I can't give you more than a 50-50 on that one. But Durant, I think, is much more 75% or better that he gets moved.
Last question. The overall, the league is trying to do some things at the All-Star game, trying to change the formatic of that. But, you cover the Knicks, but you see the entire league, Brian. Is the league healthy? Is the league in a good spot in terms of, fans, supporting their teams, all that? Is the league in a good place?
I think it's in a great place, like with the business aspect, the stuff we're talking about. The fans love free agency, the trades. I think they're working on the game still a lot. I think a lot of fans aren't sure how much they love what's become with so many three-pointers, other players trying all the time, load management, that kind of stuff, which they've tried to curtail. So that stuff is always going to be worked on. David Stern, the old commissioner, used to say the game is the most important thing. So Yes and no. It's healthy, but there's tweaks that have to be made to keep the interest on the part that should be the most important.
All right. Where can people see your work?
Brian C. Mahoney on X, apnews.com is where our stories go. So happy to have people following along.
All right. I appreciate you doing this, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Take care.
Yes, sir. Yep, does a good job. Brian Mahoney covering the Knicks, and we'll see what they do for the head coach in New York. We'll take a break. We'll come back. My old friend Johnny Wiggs gets a great honor over at Santa Fe Community College. We'll tell you about that, and he'll be with us next. Stay with us on our Sports Scene podcast.
After you work out, you can feel worn out. Reach for Core Power and rise to a whole new level of recovery. Protein to build muscle. Electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to power on. Champion your recovery with Core Power.
Is your bank dropping the ball, not playing with heart or skill? Then you need to check out the scouting report on Campus USA Credit Union. That's a 5-star recruit if I've ever seen one. Campus has it all, like great rates and products, friendly service, and smart game plans for you and your money. So why not put some star power in your financial life? Visit campuscu.com or any campus service center today.
Honey, can I recruit you to take the garbage out?
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Roos Ogra for your personal price plan today.
Patients. At Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Welcome back to our Sports Scene podcast for this Monday. Don't forget, for the rest of the month of June, just a Monday podcast, not Monday and Friday, just on Mondays. We're going to end today by talking to a guy I've known for a long time, pitched, of course, for the Florida Gators, long-time baseball coach at Santa Fe Community College. Johnny Wiggs joins us. Wiggsy, thank you for doing this. It's good to have you here. For those who don't know, talk about the year you had this past year, with your Saints. What went right, what didn't?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a down year, Steve. We've had a lot of great success here, and really proud of what we've been able to do in the 19 years that I've been here. It's crazy it's been that long.
I know.
But yeah, we had a down year. We didn't pitch very well. It seems like that's a common theme around the country these days. I keep saying the hitting coaches are doing a better job than the pitching coaches are these days, because it seems like, everybody's got a 5 or 6 ERA. And, back in my day, of course, we had, I think, in 88, when we went to the World Series, I think we had a 2.75 or something, and we used to tell, Gitcom and I used to tell the bullpen, we played back in those days, we played two 7-inning games on a Saturday, and we'd tell our bullpen, hey, you guys can pitch on Sunday. Everybody threw CGs and everybody pitched well. And it seems like, boy, today, Friday nights, there's 12-11, 13-12 games. And so we didn't pitch very well at Santa Fe this year. And that's my job. I work with the pitchers, and we've got to get better. The 2 years before that, we had the state pitcher of the year and the conference pitcher of the year, and we did okay. But we've got to get better. We didn't defend well early in the season as well, so we didn't make the postseason for the first time in quite a while. But we're already excited about my group I got coming in, and we'll be raring to go.
I want to pick your brain a little bit, because I hear what you're saying in terms of the pitching. Why do you think that is?
Well, we just lost somewhere. We lost pitchability. Everybody promotes their their academy, their armory, there are all these things about how I can make you throw 5 miles an hour harder. But I need armories and academies to teach people how to pitch a little bit better, and I need to, we need to continue to do the same thing at our level. But I only get them for a short period of time. I always say I only get them for 2 years. When I first started coaching junior college baseball 27 years ago, I used to think if I could get some projects, big guys threw hard, I could teach them to pitch. And the time I taught them to pitch, they were walking out the door to go to a 4-year school. But we got to get back to pitchability, changing speeds, instead of guys just doing nothing but trying to throw it hard. When I watch a Major League Baseball game, got the catchers, almost everybody that pitches, the catcher just sits in the middle of the plate and they pitch north and south. The catchers only move in and out. I know the strike zone is a little bit tighter and those kind of things, but only a few guys out there actually locate and throw a changeup and those kind of things, and it's really hurt pitching as a whole, I believe.
Is that because there's so much emphasis on, the radar gun now?
I do. I believe so. Of course, I wasn't that kind of guy. I always say I was 5 foot nothing, weighed 100 nothing. People always say, Coach, how do you throw all this BP still? Did you never hurt your arm? And I always say I didn't throw hard enough to hurt my arm. When I was 11 years old, I started throwing a curveball. And people used to say, oh, you're going to tear your arm up throwing all those curveballs. Well, if you throw a curveball correctly, it's better for your arm than a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I can tell you that. I saw a graphic not long ago, and it showed the guys who averaged 95 to 100. And like 90% of them had Tommy John, and the other 10% will have Tommy John soon. So our arms just weren't made to throw 100 miles an hour. And pitchers are told these days, go as hard as you can, as long as you can. So they go out there and they let it rip, hardest slider they can throw, hardest fastball they can throw. And then all of a sudden, 5 innings is a good outing these days. If we got took out after 5 innings, it was a bad outing back in our day. I played with a lot of guys. Dave Fleming was one of them. Maybe you remember the name. Dave Fleming, left-handed pitcher, pitched at Georgia on the 1990 national championship team. I played with him in professional baseball. And Dave Fleming played in the big leagues, but he would be going 87, 88, 89 maybe. And then all of a sudden he'd turn around and there's second and third and one out and he's a strikeout. He'd go 91, 92. He could turn it up when he needed to, but that's the way we were sort of taught. Starting pitchers were supposed to go 7 to 9 innings, and so they kept it on a little bit reserve and located, changed speeds. But that's just my take. Some people would probably disagree with me, but that's my take on pitching.
I concur with that 1,000%, Johnny. 1,000%.
Good.
I want you, I know you don't like to do this, but I want folks to know, give yourself a plug for being a Hall of Famer now. Discuss that, how that all came about and how you got the honor.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Steve. I'm really humbled by it all. When you get in a Hall of Fame, that means you're also in the Hall of Old. You're probably old. You've been around a long time. I am 58 years old, and I've been a head coach in junior college for 27 years now, coaching for like 32, 33. But some guys here in the state nominated me. It goes to a national committee. Again, it's the National Junior College Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame, and it goes to a committee, and 2 of us around the country got selected this year. Another man from, he coached at Lincoln Land up in Illinois. And, but yeah, the Hall of Fame is held at the Junior College World Series banquet in Grand Junction, Colorado. So they flew my wife and I out there and put us up and everything for a few days. And that happened the Friday before the Junior College World Series started. And what a great event. I think it was 800 people at the banquet, all the teams. Grand Junction, Colorado is amazing in the support. They've had the World Series out there for like 65 years or something. And I told them, I truly believe this. Well, one, I was a player with the Gators in the Omaha World Series in '88. But I told them I thought my time in Grand Junction, the 2 times I've been able to take my teams out there, was even more special than Omaha. The way the town just embraces it. When we played in the national championship game there years ago, we played in front of 11,000 fans in the championship game. We play in front of maybe 111 fans most of the year. if that. And all of a sudden we're playing in front of 11,000 people, and 90% of them are Grand Junction people or Colorado people. And, the other 10% is the teams that travel there. But they do such a great job. And for me to be inducted was just incredible honor. Like I said, really humbled by it all. But I've had a lot of great players and a lot of great assistant coaches that have put their fingerprints on our program. And I'm just, overwhelmed and excited, and got a few more years left in the tank, though.
Yeah, richly deserved, by the way, my friend.
Thank you, Steve.
Let me end with this. Back to what we were talking about at the beginning. When you're seeing kids now at the high school level, compare them when you first started to now, because they see the changes in the game. Are their mindsets different now, especially pitching?
Everybody's big. I always say this: everybody's bigger, faster, stronger these days. I grew up watching the Yankees in the 70s, and you compare the Yankees in the 70s and look at the guys with Stanton and Judge and those guys on the field today. The body types have changed, so everybody's more physical. Everybody throws harder, but we seem like we have to work with the mental side of things a lot more these days. We have to try to instill confidence and teach that. A lot of times, my best story when I go out to the mound is saying, I say, I wish I was you. And they say, what do you mean, coach? I said, I wish I was 6'3" and threw as hard as you do. I said, but, I didn't have all those physical things, but I really believed in my stuff. And I'm trying to get my young guys to believe in their stuff rather than, we walk too many guys these days because we treat everybody like they're Babe Ruth. I remember back in 88, 89, challenging Frank Thomas with fastballs up in the zone. Frank Thomas, of course, later became a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer, but I believed that 5'9", 5'10", and I could get that 6'6" guy out. I believed in my stuff, and so we work on the mental side of things a lot, probably more than we work on the physical side of things. Kids just don't seem quite as confident in their stuff as we did.
Fascinating stuff. Congratulations, my friend, on the Hall of Fame, and thanks for sharing knowledge, which you certainly have, and we will talk. Appreciate you.
Steve, thanks so much for having me over the years, and you're the best. Congrats on your retirement. I know you're back at doing this now, but you've been doing it a lot longer than I have. You're awesome, dude.
Appreciate you, Wiggsy. Thank you. Johnny Wiggs joining us. Yep, who is now a Hall of Famer. We'll come back and wrap up our Sports Scene podcast today. Stay with us.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. Look what you have done to my truck.
Excuse me, it's your fault, it's not my fault.
Yes, it is your fault. I am calling Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law.
So I'm gonna call Jeffrey, my husband.
Meldon Law, this is Jeffrey speaking.
Jeffrey!
This crazy lady here, this crazy lady here might...
New client? Yes, but this one might be a little tricky.
No, growing up in Gainesville, definitely different, especially having the University of Florida there. It was basically like a dream of everybody's, growing up to just have an opportunity to play at the University of Florida. So everybody doesn't have that, the opportunity to do so. So I just feel like me being able to give back to the city that helped me, become the player and the person I am today. It's like, why not just go back and give back? You just become a great person, not just a great athlete or not just a great, teacher or anything, just a great person in general, having those attributes and those type of characteristics just help people just become better people. So that's what I'm trying to do, help the youth just become great.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless, mimosas, and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
We are just about wrapped up for our Sports Scene podcast for today, but I want to thank all of my sponsors who are so great, and I hope you'll support them. Body Armor, we come to you from the Body Armor podcast studio here in Gainesville. Choose better. Enjoy this super drink. I do. It's really, really good. You'll like it if you try it. Our Facebook comments brought to you by Titan MRI and Imaging, now with 2 locations in Gainesville, 1 in Lake City. You can start feeling better today because it is your choice. Our gold sponsor, Campus USA Credit Union, putting star power to work in the financial life for over 90 years. Campus USA Credit Union. All of our guest sponsors presented by Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Our YouTube comments, Greg gave us one, and he said, what's the announcement going to be? Well, we got to wait a little bit, Greg, for that. Those are brought to you by QC Kinetics. If you have joint or muscle pain, you don't need surgery, drugs, or downtime, you can schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics. And our clips of the day brought to you by Ruse Ogra State Farm. State Farm agent Ruse Ogra is your go-to agent in Gainesville and North Central Florida for the service you deserve at the price you want. I want to thank our guest, Santa Fe Community College baseball coach and now Hall of Famer, Johnny Wiggs, Jonathan Mayo from MLB.com, and Brian Mahoney, who covers the NBA for the Associated Press. And a big thank you to our producer, Zach Rothrock, for his work. And most of all, we thank you for tuning in either live or consuming our Sports Scene podcast whenever you get a chance to do it. Back at you again next Monday at noon. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Steve Russell. So long, everybody.